Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are here to discuss one of the newest films in theaters. It is Hurry Up Tomorrow, starring The Weeknd, better known as Abel Tesfaye, Jenna Ortega, and Barry Keoghan. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian, and I am joined by the return of Meaghan Krantz.
Hi, everyone.
Meaghan, welcome back.
Glad to be back.
Hope school's great.
School is great.
Love that for you.
Yeah.
Let's jump into this absolutely horrific movie.
Yeah. Really kicking it off strong.
Yeah,
you know?
this was an experience.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. I haven't had many experiences in the theater like I did with this movie. It reminds me a lot of when I saw Spring Breakers for the first time, which I don't know if you know this, but it's one of my least favorite movies of all time.
Okay.
So that should give people some confidence going into the review. This was one that it kind of felt like a fever dream, and I think that was partially what they were going for. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest thing to kind of focus on with this, as much of the internet is talking about, is the fact that The Weeknd is trying to do something across a different medium, right? Like he's been a successful recording artist for a long time. He's already done the big swing. I mean, doing a big budget show for HBO with Lily Rose Depp, which kind of put her on the map. And then she ended up doing Nosferatu, which kind of just even propelled her even more, to now jumping into a movie with a director that a lot of people love, and Trey Edward Shults, but also like coupling that with two of like the industry's hottest young stars with Jenna Ortega and Barry Keoghan. So off the bat, when I first heard about this movie, I was intrigued. I'll say that. I was intrigued. When you first heard of the movie, which could have even been as recent as like a week ago, but I'm curious, like in the inception of this movie, what were your thoughts going into it, and then broad thoughts coming out of the movie?
Well, going into it, I didn't want to totally just like shut it like aside, like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like I didn't want, but like my mind immediately kind of went in that direction because of how the Idol sort of turned out to be, which was a show that I couldn't even finish watching just because it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I kind of was suspecting that Hurry Up Tomorrow could be the same thing just based off his track record, but I didn't want to go in with that assumption totally, because I am a fan of him and I really do love his music and I've been listening to him for a really long time. So I kind of was like trying to maintain that loyalty of like, you know, like, no, I'm a fan. Like it's going to be, you know, it's going to work out this time. But I think after seeing it, it kind of just goes to show that even with the most successful, like hot actors and like the direction and the cinematography, even with all of that, if you have that all compiled, like, okay, this is going to be a banger. If the writing and the performances are just void and just lack of substance, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I think you talking about the writing is a great place to start.
Yeah.
Because this is a movie that runs in an hour and 45 minutes. And I think there are only words spoken for about 45 minutes of it, maybe 50 minutes of it. It plays at times like a visual album. It also plays at times... it plays like, I don't know if you've ever seen any of his movies. I've only seen one, but I know his like inspiration. But it plays like a modern David Lynch movie, but not in a good way. It's like it's trying to play on these different cinematic influences, and it almost feels like, which The Weeknd obviously is a really big movie fan. Like he's shown it in his music videos. He's talked about it openly. It's a big part of the reason why he wanted to go into the entertainment industry in general with film and television. But it's almost like he's taking different like iconic scenes from movies and he's smashing them together while also trying to comment on what he goes through, and it feels very self-indulgent in a way where it's artistic to try to be what's the word? He's trying to be like showboaty. It's like he's trying to be like, yeah, I know this movie reference. Like I'm going to reference Misery for the last 30 minutes of this movie. Yeah. And he does. And then you have cringe-inducing scenes with like one of the best-selling actresses in the world right now with Jenna Ortega. And then you have an underutilized Barry Keoghan, who's definitely the best part of the movie, in my opinion. But is that how you felt watching the movie as well?
Yeah, I mean, we have like the Shining like visual like motifs, and yeah, Misery, which I haven't seen, but I've been seeing that everywhere. Just that last scene.
Yeah.
And then like I mean, I saw Vanilla Sky was a reference. American Psycho.
American Psycho for the
with Jenna Ortega's scene. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a kind of like it really just felt like this prolonged music video with occasional scenes with dialogue. And then just these references to these movies and stuff. It was very like overstimulating. It was kind of like just visually overwhelming. There wasn't really a plot to really follow, I don't think.
Yeah, that's, and going back to the writing part that you talked about, like it doesn't play like a movie, and it's almost like one of the reviews I was watching earlier, the guy was like, you could have probably just condensed this into like a 30-minute thing, and then you could have put it on YouTube, and it probably would have done like really well for him, or it could have been on Netflix, and a lot more people would have watched it. And instead, I don't know what the budget on the movie was, but I'm sure like Jenna Ortega wasn't cheap. So like bringing her in was something. Trey Edward Shults, who, have you ever seen any of his movies?
No, but I know he did Waves.
He did do Waves. So I wanted to watch that before we came into the review. I unfortunately didn't have time, but like he's done Waves. He did It Comes at Night, which was like a pretty decent like horror thriller. Krishna, which a lot of people loved, which is like his first indie that kind of got him these bigger projects. To go from that to this is an interesting change of pace, but it's also, you're bringing in somebody that has that experience to try to elevate, I think, what Abel was feeling. And it's not to take away from the fact that a lot of what is on screen in this movie are things that actually happened to him, like the fact that he was dealing with the loss of his voice 3 years ago, and the sort of neurosis and the psychosis that he was dealing with at that time. But it feels, I think we're past the 5-minute mark at this point, so I said this off camera, it's like masturbatory. It's almost like he's like, I need to like look at myself in the mirror and like just stroke my ego. And he's now done this twice, and it's like, how many more chances is he gonna get to do this and make himself as a person unlikable? Because it's like the characters that he's also casting himself in are really not that off the beaten path of like the aura of who the Weeknd is.
Right. Yeah. And I think in this film in particular, it was kind of like his breakout moment as an actor. I don't really know how much you can break out as an actor if you're just playing yourself. You know what I mean?
It's a very fair point.
Right? And like, I don't know, just watching it, it's like, I feel like there's a lot of, maybe he like, not even like he's looking for sympathy. I mean, maybe Loki kind of is. But I mean, it's almost like this like hour and a half long, like therapy session. And it's so vulnerable, but it's so vulnerable to the fact that like, I feel like most of, especially general audiences that aren't really fans of him, just don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't even know that I was supposed to get all of these like metaphors for all like these different like, aspects of his life and his like, subconscious and all of this, like, which you can get into. But like, I didn't even pick up on any of that.
Well, I think it also beats you over the head in a way where it's like, it doesn't leave room for just like self-discovery. Like you can't be a viewer and be like, oh, there's like a deeper meaning to this, because Jenna Ortega is dancing in front of him and breaking it down song by song.
Right. Yeah. Like American Psycho style.
Yeah, like all right. So let's talk about that scene.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Now we're jumping to the end of the movie, but
because that's kind of the only part where things happen.
Yeah. So that's a fair point.
Yeah.
So basically, I'll try to give the best basic description of what this movie is.
Okay.
So essentially, Abel is a multi-million-dollar recording artist. He is struggling with relationships with women in general.
Yeah.
And he is dealing with that amongst the fact that he's losing his voice. He is being self-indulgent in his habits with drugs and alcohol, and violence and all these things. And amidst that, he meets this younger girl who is going through her own sort of self-discovery through his music, and feels that she needs to sort of be this savior to come through to him in a way, while giving him sort of a taste of his own medicine, condensed into like a B plot that almost has no substance to it. That's the best way to put it. Barry Keoghan plays his best friend and manager since they were children. And he's kind of the only interesting part of the movie. But we can get into that later. But it all kind of builds up to this crescendoing moment where the very memeable scene online where Abel is a night after sleeping with Jenna Ortega. He is about to leave because he's on a tour. He has very important things that he has to do. He has calls to take, and so much so that even though she wants to save him, he tells her to shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Shut up.
What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? I'm trying to be nice right now. I'm trying to do a good thing.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to do a good thing.
But you're forcing me bad right now. You realize I'm trying to be nice, but you're forcing me to be bad.
Now, Abel, I want to ask you seriously, as a fan of your music, what the fuck were you thinking? Because that scene plays so poorly and sets this film down this almost like B-level sort of motion and direction. The interesting part about that is that in my opinion, the best scene of the entire movie happens sandwiched between two legitimate actors with Barry and Jenna. The only time they're on screen together. I think that plays great. I think that the action is done really well in that scene. I think Barry kind of intimidates her in a way where it's like predatory and it plays into that. And it's a great scene of struggle, and there's not even that much substance to it, but it plays like a scene that would play in a multi-million-dollar Hollywood movie. To then we get this like ode to misery where Abel is tied to a bed for the last 35 minutes of the movie, which again is like, sorry, dude, is this your sex dungeon fantasy? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
And so much so that it goes back to the ego stroking, where Jenna Ortega is playing some of his songs and explaining to him and the audience why there's a deeper meaning to his lyricism and a deeper meaning to what it means for the world at large and his feelings on dating, his feelings on emotion and religion and all these things. How did that scene play for you? Because for me, I'm sitting there in the theater, mouth agape, just being like, are we really doing this in a movie that's in the movie theaters right now? Like, are we really in something that just doesn't, it feels so detached from reality.
Absolutely.
And from this, again, this like, I don't want to say it's the artist mentality. It's almost like from a celebrity mentality where it's like, are we supposed to feel for you in these moments? Because I just feel gross, like watching this play out.
Yeah. Literally, I feel as though that the scene where he just like crashes out on her when like she like when she was on the phone and she's crying. I need to talk about this before I even get into the
bed. Yeah.
Because we like spend so much time like with these like these ambient like scores and just kind of sitting with all of these like all this like stylistic imagery and whatever, to the point where we finally get to where like the morning after and she's crying and his face when she's crying and he's staring at her is the most comical thing ever, because he's just like watching her like and in the theater it was just so awkward. And then finally he's like, are you good? You know? And then obviously we have that scene back and forth, but literally like I noticed too that there is like this kind of like underscore, like this like rumbling when she's like, I'm just trying to help you, I'm just trying to and then when he just like cuts her off and is like, shut the fuck up, like it just cuts out and it's silent and it almost has like this comedic effect to it. And I feel like that was the first time where I was actually like emotive, like as I was sitting there watching, I was just like, oh my god, like I felt like a breath of fresh air, because now I can actually laugh.
But that's the wrong emotion.
But yeah.
That's the wrong emotion for what they want, but I understand what you're saying.
Right. It's like that certainly was not the intended reaction, but that is legitimately when I started to have fun, like watching this movie. I was like, oh my god. Because like even when you see like, I mean, everybody's like recording it in theaters and like posting it online.
Yeah.
And in the background, everyone's laughing. Like everyone's laughing throughout that whole scene. And just the moment where it plays out from him watching her cry and being like, yo, like, not knowing what to do, to the moment where she just like clocks him with whatever she picks up and like smashes him over the head. Like literally that entire sequence is hilarious. It shouldn't be, but it's hilarious.
It plays like an SNL sketch.
Yeah.
It's like kind of insane.
Exactly. Yeah, it kind of does look. Yeah, I totally see that point. But like, yeah, we have that, and the scene with Barry and Jenna, I also like. I think I felt the right emotions there, especially when she actually manages to kill him. I thought like I was sitting there like, no, because he like was my favorite character too. I think. I will say I don't really believe that he couldn't have like. He didn't have enough strength to pin her down. I feel like he struggled too much. I didn't really believe like she's like a 5'1", like
she's
like
a tiny
petite girl, and like Barry Keoghan couldn't like hold up a fight against
Maybe
her.
that's why they cast a short king.
Maybe that's true.
Possible.
That's true. Yeah. So that was my only thing about that. I was like, really? I don't know. I feel like it was too much of like. I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I believe. And the fact that he, like moments before it, he like breaks down the door too. Like he mentioned.
That's a fair point.
Of like this like luxury hotel, he just like bangs like 3 times and then the lock just breaks off the wall.
Yeah.
And then he can't pin down Jenna Ortega.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I was a little like.
I do think part of that though also is that I do think there was an element of him really actually not trying to hurt her, but just trying to get her to calm the fuck down.
That's true.
Because he really was like, I just want to get to like at the end of the day, his goal, his character's goal is, even though he is a friend to Abel, he's really just trying to exploit him. To just get him to go back on tour and be like, we need to keep doing this, dude. Like, you're making me money. I'm doing like freaking crystal meth with your friends. Like, we need to you need to get back on tour.
Right.
So I don't know if it, and that from that perspective, I can understand. Like, I can see both sides. It's like, yes, again, in terms of like the physique part of it, like Jenna Ortega is not imposing on anybody because she's a tiny girl.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time, if that really is the motivation, it's like he's just trying to get her to calm down and tell him where Abel actually is. He can. That's kind of what leaves him vulnerable and open for. Just getting stabbed with the broken glass.
Right. You know? Yeah. Now that you bring it up too, when I like think back to that moment, he was definitely trying to be like, okay. Like I'm just trying to find him. Like, well, he was almost like talking her down. But she was far from just being talked down at that point. I mean, she just kind of like her character, at least on the surface, is just like this like crazy super fan.
Which I was going to bring this up to you. So her opening scene. Her opening scene is essentially her with this giant jug of gasoline, like an abnormal size.
Like cool, okay.
Like it's literally as big as Jenna Ortega. She's like struggling to carry it.
Yeah, right.
And she lights this house on fire. And again, you're thinking, going into the movie that she's burning down Abel's house, and then you quickly realize that we don't know whose house it is.
Right, and we never do.
And we never find out. You get, again, it's alluding to, it has something to do with her mom. Whoever her mom was, I don't know, like talking to. It didn't seem like it was her dad. Like I don't.
Phone?
Yeah, like her mom is like, why would you do this? Because she's on the run of something. But it's like, whose house did she burn down? Was it an ex-boyfriend? And she's like, I'm just in my feels from listening to the Weeknd's music, so I need to burn my ex-boyfriend's house down. Like, there's no indication of who it is. But the worst part about that from a storytelling perspective is that there's nothing to discover about her.
Nope.
She's a fucking crazy bitch.
Yep.
And you know that from the jump. But you know that from the jump. And it's not to say, because I don't think her performance is necessarily bad. I think she's a talented actress. The interesting thing that I really question with Jenna Ortega, and I've only seen one episode of Wednesday. Not that I disliked it, but I'm like one of the only people who's never watched it.
Yeah,
apparently.
actually, I haven't either.
Okay,
I've only seen a little bit of it.
But I am curious because this was one of, I think there's only like the third thing maybe I've seen her in since Wednesday, which is like the second or third biggest Netflix series of all time. She's made some very questionable choices,
like some
in terms of projects.
Yeah,
and like I don't know why she would do this. Like, I just don't, like, there's nothing to the depth to kind of show that she could be bigger than what Wednesday displays. Because she's been very vocal about, she's like, I just think Wednesday kind of played a little childish in the beginning. And, like, she was very instrumental in, like, season 2 and trying to make it a little bit darker. And so it's like, she has depth to her, obviously. She actually talks a lot about, like, classic film and stuff. Like, so she's into that. But I'm like, did her and, like, the Weeknd just hang out one day and like talk about movies from the 60s, and they were like, let's make that. Right. Let's do that. Because it's like, why?
Yeah, as far as I know, like she wasn't a Weeknd fan prior to this. She did all her research prior to, like, once she was already on the project. Like she was listening to him, and then she was kind of finding out who he was, like, before, so she could practice for the scene where she's like describing all of his music.
Yeah,
like, she needed to and she was talking about that in an interview recently, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. You know?
Oh my god, I get so. Can we talk about that?
Okay,
scene?
let's talk about.
I need to know your thoughts on this because, again, it's just like, it's this. I can't help but laugh. She's like seductively dancing.
Yeah.
With his music, but she's also very playful and childish.
Right.
And again, it's playing into the fact that she's obviously a lunatic, but it's really also pointing at the fact that every single aspect of that scene is really just commenting on the Weeknd's music. Like, there's nothing else to it. It's just like, yeah, but you have to be saying something deeper here. Like, I know it's like, it's a hit. Like, your song is a hit, but like, there has to be something deeper that you're trying to say. So like, I'm here to help you. Like, you just need to talk.
Yeah.
That is literally how the scene plays out.
Yep, exactly.
So you're in film school right now. Okay.
Yeah.
I can almost guarantee that you're not being taught to do fucking that. So please.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of the funniest reviews we've ever done on the channel, by the way. But
oh my God.
Please explain to me what the fuck was going on in that scene.
Okay. So as I sat there, they're both cracking up off camera. As I was sitting there, I was just like, holy shit. Like, so she legitimately really poses this character of like, yeah, she's this crazy super fan. She's like, not even like, yeah, she's just like in love with the Weeknd, everything about him. And she's also like this pyromaniac, apparently. So that's how it comes off, right? And it's genuinely like she's explaining to him exactly what these lyrics are. Everything else literally as if like, yeah, like I've been seeing a lot of the whole American Psycho joke. Like she's just doing that to him.
Yeah.
But
not as effective, by the way, as it is in American Psycho.
Absolutely not, yeah. But, you know, this whole scene starts off with her telling him like, I like, you need to tell me the truth. Meanwhile, like, I'm just sitting there like, truth about what? Like he was just being a douchebag, slept with you and is leaving. Like what more truth is there really? Like, you know, like so that entire, you know, her sequence of her just like, you need to tell me the truth and this and that. When he's like laying there in bed, he's like, what the fuck? Like crying. I'm like, valid, honestly. Like, I think that was the most realistic reaction he had, like, through the entire movie. Like, him just being like, what the fuck is going on? I was like, I felt the same way. I was like, what? But the actual intention here is something that I kind of mentioned this a little bit before. I never would have ever picked up on this had I not done my research after the fact. And apparently, as like a Weeknd fan, you know, a lot of them are claiming like, you know, no one understands it. No one likes it because they just don't understand it. Because there's all these metaphors involved where Jenna Ortega's character and Barry Keoghan's character are supposed to represent like two different sides of his subconscious, like of his mind. So like Barry is like, or Lee in the movie, he's like more of the masculine side. That's more of his like ego really like popping through. And then Annie or Anima is the female consciousness side of like his brain, and like that's more of like the softer, more strong-willed, like emotional, like more, you know, like the subconscious.
Okay.
And Lee's more of like his ego, like that male, like, you know, energy or whatever. And the fact that they collide and she manages to kill Lee.
So he's like, trying to put that behind him and trying to be more into his emotions. Well, that does not fucking play.
Absolutely not.
Not at all.
No.
She's trying to get him to tell what it plays like on camera is that she's trying to get him to tell his truth through his music. Yeah. And it almost plays like they're trying to say to the audience, you don't even understand. And it's like, well, what are we supposed to be understanding here?
Yeah.
Because like, there are fans of his music. There are people that understand he's an emotional guy.
Right.
There are people that know what he's gone through. So what is the overall goal with what you're trying to tell?
Yeah. like there's no real resolution really. I mean, but you can say like, yeah, like he finally sheds his Weeknd, like the persona of the Weeknd. Like that's kind of the whole point of the movie.
Yeah, because he wants to, which he's also talked about.
Right.
He's like, I want to be like an actor and I want to be Abel Tesfaye. And it's like, too fucking bad.
Yeah,
dude.
right.
You've been the Weeknd for how long now?
Which is right. It's so like well established in your career. Everyone knows you as the Weeknd. But yeah, I mean, I absolutely would have never picked up on that. I only know that because he's talked about it in interviews, and like people that are fans of him are like, yeah, like this is what actually is going on. And that's what all these people are saying, you know, like that her like basically just like begging him to just like come to like the conclusion of like, oh, this song's about this, like, you know, the fact that like he eventually makes it there and is just like singing, like he's singing like an acoustic version of the first song on the Hurry Up Tomorrow album, like he's singing Hurry Up Tomorrow, but he just like just lays there and sings it, and then he sheds a tear, which how many close-up shots do we need of them crying like a single tear?
Oh my god, so
the
many
entire
in this season.
film.
There's a lot of crying in this.
So much crying, yeah.
Movie.
But it's like the pretty cry, you know. It's just kind of like the tear down the face and just the, you know, like oh I'm sorry, like the whole time that's what it is, and that's what he does in that scene, and then he sings the song, and then she unthies him. I'm like, what? Like that's you coming to terms with like
after she's about to burn him alive.
Right. He's like
pours gasoline all over his body.
In gasoline, which is like also, you know, the whole like homage to his song Gasoline, and also her burning everything down, like her burning down the house in the beginning is also a reference to one of like his very first songs of his first album, and also he kind of like circles back to it in a lot of his other songs too. But like this house is not a home is like a reoccurring lyric or like a theme in his songs, so like that's also what like that was supposed to represent. But again, I didn't even know that. I didn't put that together. I was just like, whose house is that, and what are you doing? So like all like full circle, I like didn't really feel much of a conclusion, but like that scene in particular with her dancing and singing the song, just it's so like there's so much enthusiasm of her like in her character where it is really like it's pretty psychotic, you know, especially on the surface. I
think that this would have done much better as a visual album, and they should have said it was a visual album, and maybe you wouldn't be getting so much flack.
Totally.
Because the way that it seems like he's trying to have people interpret this thing, and I think the problem with why he couldn't do that is because, as you said, or you're talking about in the research, it has to do more with his overall career, and visual album obviously is this more condensed, conducive, like one album sort of outlet, like what Beyonce is doing or Childish Gambino has done. And I think that he wanted to be more like, I don't even know how to like higher level in his thinking, and it just didn't play. It like didn't play for like a through line of a movie. It didn't feel like a movie at any point, and I think that's why it's kind of getting review bombed. And I think it's kind of, I mean, I feel bad, but I kind of don't.
Yeah.
I will say this. I'm gonna give three positive things.
Okay.
They're somewhat positive. Cinematography is fantastic in the movie.
Oh yeah,
it's beautiful, beautifully shot. I don't have the cinematographer's name off the top of my head. I wish I did, but whoever shot the movie did a fantastic job.
Good job.
Good job, DP. The lighting is also great. In every single scene, it's lit beautifully, and I think so much of that probably has to do with the fact that you have a very competent professional director, and you also have somebody that is very cinematic in the way they tell their stories through music.
Yes.
So that's probably played a great part in terms of what they did. Also, now you're a bigger fan of his music. I haven't listened to the full album. The songs that we get in the movie, I actually really enjoy.
Yeah.
So I really like what I heard from the new album in the movie. He does do the same song 3 times, which I wish he wouldn't have done.
Yeah, I agree.
But it is what it is. So those are my 3 positives. Those are my 3 standouts. But other than that, it's very hard for me to recommend this to anybody. Yeah. Because unless you're like a really big diehard fan of The Weeknd and you kind of just want to see what he's crafting. But again, I think it plays better. Like it would play better as like a YouTube like thing. And I think you could probably cut an hour out of this. And you could just make it like a tight 45 of something. And I mean, I think Barry's unfortunately underutilized, and I think Abel should. Somebody was talking about this too. Have you seen Uncut Gems?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
What he did in that movie, was a perfect first step for him, was to be a supporting player in a movie with extraordinary direction, play his role, and that got him in the game, right? It got him in with the people that he wanted to be with to do these things. That is what Abel Tesfaye needs to do if he wants to recover from this.
Yeah.
He needs to start actually taking acting seriously if he really wants to do it. He needs to stop playing versions of himself.
Yeah.
And he needs to challenge himself as an actor. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to be a laughingstock in terms of the eyes of moviegoers, I think. And I think it's going to rub off on people who like his music too. So that's my overall wrap up thoughts. But what about you? Things you enjoyed and overall last thoughts before we go into scores.
Yeah, I completely agree with your positive like outlooks on it, and just like, cause yeah, like it looked great, it sounded great. I even loved, like I mentioned the score a couple times too, but like just like kind of mixing his music with kind of this this ambient sort of like score was just really, really nice. Like I kind of wish that like that tension it was building up, you know, amounted to something bigger, because there was so much of, like, it sounded so great and it looked so great. It was stunning. I mean, his music videos always kind of have that sort of aesthetic, and that's also like, I mean, yeah, if this was just like a tight 45, it would have been like spectacular. But yeah, I mean, I think literally you could take out all the dialogue. Unfortunately, maybe most of what like the scenes that Jenna Ortega has, and like, you know, but I mean, I'm seeing him live in a few weeks, and I'm really excited because that's kind of sort of gonna like I don't know, like a kind of like a palate cleanser. I feel like in a way, because I mean I feel bad. Like I wish that this was a better movie. Like you know, and it's the kind of thing that like I really genuinely was excited for, but just based on his track record, like I mentioned in the beginning, like I was just sort of like, I don't know if I have much hope for this. But if he does do more like gets more roles in movies and just kind of works with more, I don't know, like, yeah, just not going into a movie being like, yeah, I'm gonna play myself,
the lead and play myself,
right? Because it just comes off so like narcissistic and self-indulgent, and I hate that, you know. But like, it's just kind of one of those things you can only sort of watch from afar. Because like now when I even say like, oh yeah, like Hurry Up Tomorrow, the album was like great, like people are just gonna be like, yeah, like,
yeah,
they're just immediately gonna associate it with the movie, and then, like it's so frustrating. I also have the same hopes for him that he will just kind of take on some different projects and hopefully sort of just rebuild that reputation.
Yeah. Are you gonna make a sign for the concert that says, "I'm trying to be nice"?
I'm trying to be nice.
Abel, I'm trying to be nice. You're forcing me to be bad.
I'm trying to do a good thing. I have calls. I'm on a tour.
I'm on a tour? All right. Anyway, it's time for scores.
We gotta go.
It's time for scores.
We gotta go. We have a tour.
We have a tour that we have to get to.
No, we have scores.
We have scores. I like that. Okay, I'll start.
Okay. Oh, I don't even know.
It's gonna be one of the lowest scores I've ever given.
Oh, shoot.
It's not the lowest. So I have my lowest score I've given is a 2. I've given it to 2 movies: Drive Away Dolls and The Electric State, which also came out this year. This movie is not much better. It is a 2.5 out of 10 for me. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in theaters ever. I really wanted to like this movie. Like I went in, like I said, I shouldn't say with high hopes, because similar to you, I only got through 3 episodes of The Idol.
Yeah.
But I like The Weeknd as an actor. Or no, I do not. I like The Weeknd.
Clip that. Yeah.
I like The Weeknd as a music artist. I do. Can you imagine just talking to this for 40 fucking minutes, and then I wrap it up by saying, but I like The Weeknd as an actor. No.
He did a great job personally.
Oh my God, so bad. No, I like him as a music artist. I really, really am a huge fan of Barry Keoghan, and Jenna Ortega, I think, obviously has a lot of potential as a young actress. But this didn't work for me at all on any level. And like I said, there are very minimal positives that I have to take away from it. I think that, again, aesthetically, like on a craft level, it plays like a movie, but it's the substance of what's in there, especially the writing. It's one of the worst scripts that's ever been brought to screen. Like I can't remember a script that's as poorly produced as this one. So a 2.5 is going to be my score.
Yeah, like you notice how all the positive things you said have just primarily just been technical.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, style over substance is like the perfect term to use for this film. And you know, I think for that, however, I will give it a little bit more of a bump because I have a new favorite meme now, which is his
That's
scene,
fair.
you know? So
That's fair. For the cultural aspect.
For the cultural, yeah, exactly. For the cultural aspect, I literally will give it I'll give it a 3.5.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let us know in the comments. What do you guys think? Is this one of the worst movies you've ever seen? Is it the worst movie of the year thus far? A lot of people are saying that. Or are we insane and this is your favorite movie ever made? Do you think Abel Tesfaye is ascending to the stardom of acting? Please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear that, and I will passionately argue that until I die.
Right.
But give this video a like if you guys can, and subscribe to us here at the Culture Wave Media Network. We have a bunch of other stuff we're also covering on the network for you guys. We are wrapping up our coverage right now for The Last of Us on HBO. Me and Mark just finished our coverage of Andor. We're covering The Studio. We have movie reviews upcoming for Mission Impossible and Lilo and Stitch and Karate Kid Legends. There's a bunch of stuff coming for you guys. Plus, film festival stuff we'll have for you guys soon as well. You guys can also follow us on social media. All that stuff is below me right now in the video. You guys can also see it in our YouTube description. We're on YouTube, obviously, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, Instagram, a bunch of places you guys can find us. So please follow us, and you guys can check out all the other stuff we have going on. But just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Meaghan Krantz.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.